reached no fear of falling. Welcome to the short Blast Monologues. Please leave your message after the tone.
Okay, let's get this all out in the open. This whole Russia, doping, WADA, IOC thing is getting truly annoying. I mean, I'm not in any way protecting Russia for what they did. There was some bad stuff happening within Russian sport. I read all the parts of the McLaren report and subsequent reports, and punishments given were deserved, and I had hoped that a platform would have been created through all this for some change to happen. Alas, that's not what happened. It wasn't meant to be. And the resulting fallout has created a situation that really doesn't help anybody, and it definitely doesn't help sport as a whole. But these latest responses that are coming from these athlete commissions and the national anti-doping committees concerning the need for harsher punishments. Okay, there's something that really needs to be said here. Okay, from the beginning. The essence of doping and its presence within sport is something that has haunted it for so many years. I mean, we can go back to the early 1900s when Tour de France athletes used literally every substance that they could get their hands on to make it through the race. And then fast forward through all the various scandals and situations that have come up throughout the years in Olympic sport and sport as a whole, which has spanned the entire globe. Doping is not a first world problem. It's not a second world problem. It's not a third world problem. It is just a problem. And it's a problem that needs to be understood and then eradicated using a combination of methods. And here's the thing when it comes to what's happening right now. By asking for a blanket ban of all Russian athletes from the upcoming Olympics, this actually goes against the concepts of Olympism that were first set up by Pierre de Coubertin back in 1894. Besides his definition stating that sport is a human right and that all athletes should be given the right to compete, he talked extensively about how the Olympic movement and sporting organizations, which we can define in today's terms to consist of national Olympic committees and anti-doping organizations and sporting organizations as a whole, they shall apply political neutrality. And let's be frank. No side of the situation is exercising any sort of political neutrality. And the only ones who are suffering now are the athletes themselves. Now, we can have some long, drawn-out argument about the decision to take performance-enhancing substances, PEDs, and the psychology behind it, and the various pressures and beliefs that come with the decision to dope. I mean, we could be at this for hours and for a very, very long time, and I don't think we'd come to any sort of conclusion, because for many people, and this is definitely showing in the perspectives that I'm seeing right now from the responses to the blanket ban, this is a black and white issue to them. It is not a black and white issue. There are so many shades of gray within doping and in sport right now, and its presence within sport, but many do not want to see that. And that's understandable. Large sporting organizations strive to make their presence known and have it based off the white side of things, that they're going to create that perfect situation and that those who refuse should just not be allowed to participate at all. Well, if we're playing that game where people are going to exclude each other based on those kind of situations happening, a number of the largest sporting organizations and countries who compete at the Olympic Games and the biggest world championships would have been told to stop coming years and years ago. I mean, if we are going to start throwing rocks at glass houses, everyone has glass on the floor and dirt on their hands from picking up those rocks. Everyone has dirt on their hands. And blanket bans won't do a damn thing. All they're going to do is create animosity, resentment, and it's going to punish athletes who are clean and who have competed clean and who have stood up to those who tried to pressure them to do otherwise. Why are we punishing them? Because they were born in a country that made the decision to fuck with the system and cheat? They didn't make the decision of where they're born. They believed in a system that, to their knowledge, was clean and true. They weren't the ones hiding the facts. They weren't the ones covering their tracks. They weren't the ones that were pressuring their coaches and their staff to pressure them, the athletes, to take these substances. Those are the people that should be targeted and dealt with. But no, that's not what's happening here. Not even in the slightest. I mean, Throughout this whole situation, an athlete who I admire for her perspective in this and her stance is Maria Latsinskene. Besides being an absolutely amazing high jumper, and she's probably the only one who has a chance of getting close to Stefka Kasatanova's world record, her stance in regards to this whole situation has been straightforward and guns a-blazing. I mean, we may not always get the full gist of it due to her primarily posting in Russian, but she's been pushing accountability towards all parties. She's pushed for the higher Russian officials to get out of the RAF, the Russian Athletics Federation, and berated the officials and higher-ups who have created the situation in her country. She's fired back at officials from other nations when they've talked about those blanket bans, reminding them that they have been as complacent in doping scandals as Russia has over the years, which they have. And the main point she keeps pressing is that the only ones that are getting hurt in all of this are the athletes. That they are pawns in this really fucked up chess game where they are the only pieces on the board that people are aiming for. That no one's aiming for the king or queen, just them, the pawns. And that is why we are where we are right now. We can blanket ban till the cows come home, but unless people start having the gumption and courage to go after the kings and queens of these organizations, then this will continue. What we need now is to take a hard look in the mirror and a hard look at the skeletons in our closets and decide that if we're going to make this a political game like the Olympics have become over the past few editions, then we could just be looking at the demise of the Olympic spirit and Olympism as a whole. If you want to solve this problem, then people in these organizations should be pushing to create an atmosphere for change to happen. This is through education for athletes, through closing up loopholes that have been exploited for far too long, TUEs, USA and UK, I mean, come on, and teaming up with law enforcement agencies to work to stop those trafficking in these substances and legally deal with those who are aiding and creating the situations for these substances to be given to their athletes. And for God's sakes, leave the politics in Parliament. Sports isn't your tool for political gain, and it never was supposed to be. It was supposed to be about athletic achievement, cooperation, and the love of sport. Not this bullshit that has been created. Sports isn't supposed to be a war. Sports are supposed to bring us together, not give us reasons to isolate each other.